In 1994, a tragic, horrific event occurred in the small country of Rwanda, where ethnic genocide was carried out mainly against the Tutsi ethnic group by the Hutu majority, resulting in an upwards count of 1 million deaths. But a hidden side of the genocide is the untold numbers of sexual assault perpetrated against the women in this conflict, and the question of gender and how it strongly shaped who would be killed and how. But first, how, may you ask, did this happen? We first can look to the era of European colonization in the late 19th century, first with the Germans, then the Belgians, who imposed European models and favored Tutsi rule. The Belgians went about a process of racializing the tribal groups in the 1930s, even by denoting ethnicity on ID cards and maintaining the elevated privilege of Tutsis, thereby further cementing the foundation for ethnic strife to come. Over the coming years, periodic ethnic violence occurred between the groups. Then in 1994, the Hutu extremists devised a final solution for the Tutsis. Following the assassination of Rwandan President Habyarimana, Hutu extremists used the event to mobilize an effort to eliminate the Tutsi population and Hutu moderates. As said before, gender determined who would be killed and how. Men typically were immediately murdered, whereas women were first raped, then murdered. An oft-underlooked fact, though, was that women were both victims and perpetrators. Prime examples are Agatha Habyarimana, the president's wife, and Polly Nira Masahuku, who was a government minister. Both were active in planning, promoting, and organizing the genocide and ordering the direct rape of women. In terms of gender roles, some claim there was gender crisis among younger Hutu men who were landless and unemployed, thus ripe for recruitment for genocide and mass rape. In general, women were given second-class status in a patriarchal society, regardless of ethnicity. They were disempowered and treated as dependents of their male relatives, and their roles centered around motherhood and marriage. Combine that with the propaganda stereotyping Tutsi women as promiscuous and sexualized objects. These factors, the intersection of Tutsi ethnicity with gender, made them even more vulnerable to sexual violence. Genocide narratives traditionally cast women as victims, and many women did suffer horrific abuses and became victims of torture in Rwanda. However, this gender-based characterization of women is inaccurate and incomplete, and of course is more nuanced. As a result of the rife sexual violence, where it's estimated that upwards of 1 million women were raped, many women ended up infected with HIV and impregnated, but also left stigmatized from their communities. Most of all, the fabric of society was torn apart, that fabric being community and family. The nation was also left with a majority female population who then had to carry out the roles of what were reserved for men. The genocide absolutely reconfigured the role of gender in society, even to a point now where Rwanda is one of the few countries where women are the majority of their parliament. And as we can see, 20 years on, many are still dealing with the impact of the conflict and how it shaped society. But also, it has shaped our perception of how we factor gender into who and how genocide is enacted, and how genocide goes beyond the traditional perceptions or definition of victim and perpetrator, and its limited definition is simply mass killing an ethnic group, but through other actions such as enacting mass sexual violence to ethnically cleanse.